Ladies and gentlemen, lean back in your armchairs, loosen your belts, and prepare to meet an Italian masterpiece so rare, so sculptural, and so expensive that even the Mona Lisa would have parked next to it out of respect. This is the 1954 Fiat 8-volt Coupe by Vignale, a machine that looks like a V12 opera but sings in V8 harmony. It's the kind of car that makes people whisper, "Mamma Mia," even if they're from Nebraska. And before we dive under the hand-beaten hood, don't forget to click subscribe like you're polishing chrome with a winning lottery ticket. Now, rewind your radios to 1952. Fiat was still mostly known for sensible city cars and post-war practicality. Post-war prosperity was on the rise, jazz clubs were open again, and Fiat had been cranking out sensible sedans like a pasta machine on Red Bull. But the engineers, led by none other than Dante Giacosa, yes, the same man behind the Fiat 500, wanted to play in the fast lane, and so the Fiat 8-volt was born, or as the Italians called it, Ottovu. It was the company's only post-war V8-powered sports car, and perhaps their most misunderstood genius. This wasn't some mass-produced model for the masses. It was a halo car, Fiat's flashy feather in the cap. Unveiled in 1952 at the Geneva Motor Show, the 8V was never meant to flood the streets. Just 114 units were built between 1952 and 1954, a number so low it makes Bob suspicious of a government cover-up. Of those, only 34 wore Fiat's own in-house bodywork. The rest were handed over to Italy's finest carrozzerie like Zagato, Ghia, and of course, Vignale. Giovanni Michelotti, that smooth sketching savant of style, penned several of Vignale's masterpieces, and one of the finest is the one we're celebrating today. Chassis 106.00080, delivered in November 1955 to Giuseppe Gattai of Viareggio, registered LU 22827, it wasn't just a car, it was a rolling sculpture aimed at Italy's post-war elite. The kind of thing you drove to Lake Como while your silk scarf fluttered and your lover questioned your fidelity. But this wasn't all bella figura and espresso fumes. The 8-volt also meant business on the racetrack. Fiat's engineers gave it real chops. The Tipo 104 V8 engine was a marvel of compact performance. Just 2.0 litres in displacement, but smartly designed with a 70-degree V-angle, dual twin-choke Weber carburetors, and 8.5-to-1 compression. It produced about 105 horsepower at 5,600 revolutions per minute in its early configuration. That might not sound like much to today's turbo junkies, but in 1954, it meant the 8-volt could kiss 190 kilometers per hour, about 118 miles per hour on the cheek, and ask for seconds. Later versions of the engine got spicier, 115 and even 127 horsepower, thanks to improved cams and a third carburetor. But the car we're talking about here, Chassis 106.00080, came with the original two-carb setup. The transmission, a 4-speed manual, perfect for winding mountain roads and impressing your date with heel and toe downshifts, even if, like Timmy, you just end up heelking the firewall and towing the horn. Underneath that swooping bodywork sat a ladder-style chassis with welded steel semi-unitary construction. The 8-volt had independent suspension all around, uncommon and quite sophisticated for its day. Coil springs up front, a transverse leaf spring in the rear, and drum brakes on all 4 corners. Modern drivers might scoff at drums, but in the 50s they were as sexy as a martini shaker. The wheels? Classic wire-spoke alloys, perfect for collecting road grime and complements in equal measure. In terms of proportions, the 8-volt was pure Michelotti magic, with a dignified wraparound rear window, very narrow pillars, and a sharply cut tail forming small fins. Chrome trim outlined the windows and door sills, emphasizing the low roof and high waistline like a tailored Italian suit. The wheelbase measured about 94.5 inches, 2,400 millimeters, and the whole car stretched just over 13 feet, 4,040 millimeters long, and about 5 feet, 1,570 millimeters wide. And yet, it weighed under 2,200 pounds, 997 kilograms, making it lighter than Bob's grocery list of freeze-dried emergency beans. What made the 8-volt especially alluring was its dual personality. It was elegant and refined, but also raw and athletic. Fuel economy? Let's say, not its strong suit. Driven spiritedly, it could gulp down 15 to 20 litres per 100 kilometres, or roughly 12 to 16 miles per gallon. But if you're asking about fuel economy in a Vignale-bodied Fiat 8-Vol, you're probably also asking why your caviar is salty. But let's return to the refined madness of Michelotti's design. The Vignale Coupe, especially chassis 106.00080, wasn't just beautiful, it was poetic. The oval grille, flanked by two modest chrome bumperettes, gave the front end a kind of friendly aggression, like a debonair boxer asking you out for a Negroni. The beltline sat high, while the greenhouse stayed low and tight, giving the car that hunched, ready-to-pounce stance we all secretly wish we had in our Tinder profile photos. The interior? Well, after its 1990s restoration, the car received tan leather as smooth as aged brandy and instrumentation worthy of a jet cockpit. The Nardi steering wheel, thin-rimmed and wood-wrapped, sits like a crown jewel in the center. And because it's a Vignale, everything feels a little extra, the kind of interior where you half expect a violinist to emerge from the glove box. Against its contemporaries, the 8-Volt was a bit of a rebel. It wasn't a full-on race car like a Maserati A6 GCS, nor was it as plush as a Lancia Aurelia. It sat in the sweet spot, elegant enough for concours lawns, fast enough for Monza. In fact, Elio Zagato, yes, of Zagato fame, drove an 8-Volt to class victory at the 1954 Monza Coppa Inter-Europa, clocking an average speed of over 155 kilometers per hour. That's faster than Timmy running from his third ex-wife after she saw his carburetor collection. The 8-Volts routinely outran Alfa GTs in hill climbs and circuit races, especially the lighter Zagato-bodied ones. Still, even the Vignale version, while a bit heavier and more luxurious, could hold its own thanks to its Agile chassis and capable V8. Back to our hero, chassis 106.00080, which had its own glamorous journey. In November 1955, our dashing Fiat 8-Volt was handed over to its first lucky owner, a gentleman named Giuseppe Gattai, who lived in the seaside resort of Viareggio, a place where people wear sunglasses indoors and even the seagulls look well moisturized. Eventually, the car took a little European vacation of its own, packing its metaphorical leather suitcase and rolling off to Belgium before settling in Switzerland, where it joined Eric Traber's elite collection. There, our 8-Volt received a full restoration worthy of a Milan runway comeback, its original V8 heart lovingly kept intact, and its new outfit inspired by the legendary Demon Rouge, a black roof, a bold body stripe, and an interior so coordinated it could host a fashion week. Eventually, the car and two of its 8-Volt siblings were shipped across the Atlantic to the United States. Let's talk auctions. This exact car, chassis 106.00080, sold in the 2020 RM Sotheby's Elkhart Collection auction for a cool $907,000. That's right, Timmy's annual beer budget times 100. Elsewhere, prices for Vignale-bodied 8-Volts have floated in the high six-figure range, with the rare Cabriolet selling in 2015 for over €1,100,000. These cars are as investable as they are intoxicating. Here's my advice. If you ever find yourself face-to-face with a Vignale-bodied 8-Volt, do not blink, do not speak. Just let it hypnotize you like a chrome-draped opera singer belting an aria in a headwind. Subscribe now for more vintage beauties, mechanical miracles, and Timmy's hair-raising experiments with ethanol. Stay shiny, stay suspicious of pigeons, and remember, never race a Fiat 8-Volt unless you're okay with being passed by something older, classier, and far more Italian than you.